everybody, it's Teryn at Tatter-a-fact here at the Girlz Inc. studio in Las Vegas, and I am super excited to be talking to one of, well, now two of my favorite people in PMU and outside PMU. We got Clarissa Stefania Russo and her hubby, Michael.
Hello.
Yeah. I was telling the girls yesterday how cute you were, Michael, and they were just going to love you.
You're going to make me go red now. I'm going to blush. Come on.
Yeah, he is cute.
I know, and so are you. You guys are the cutest couple ever. It's fantastic.
Oh,
I know.
thank you.
You're almost as cute as Kat and I. Almost.
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 Almost. I'll let you have that one because you guys are definitely cute. 100%. Definitely our inspo.
I know. So you guys are in the UK.
Yes.
Yes.
You're in the UK.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you and I will kind of get into a lot of different things, but just a little backstory is you and I met and started to get to know each other and be friends when you reached out about doing like a pigment line. And we started working on that together, and you guys came to Vegas several times and just right? And just you bring Michael and just hanging out and talking and doing business and eating and drinking and you've trained at our studio a couple of times.
Right.
We really got to know each other and become friends. And yeah, and I just think you two are really awesome.
We think the same. You know, we've always
do.
said the same as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it's been an amazing journey from the moment I actually met you, Teryn, till literally now. We've got so much to share on this podcast, and I'm so excited, like literally just from the very moment I think I even messaged you to where we are now and coming to Vegas and taking
We knew that
you
we knew that we had friends for life as well. It wasn't just business. We knew that when we met you and Kat, it was
we just clicked.
it was just a click. You know, it was just so natural.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, you know, I have to have that. You know, people reach out to me a lot for collaborating, and I have to feel like these are people that
Who are genuine.
yes, that are genuine, and that not only that I'm going to be doing business with, but you know, when you collab with somebody, they end up becoming a big part of your life. You end up working with them a lot, speaking them to a lot. They have to be people that I can tell that I'm genuinely going to like, and they're going to be more than collaborators. They're going to be friends, and you look for things that ensure or help ensure that they're going to be friends for life. Even if
I forced you because I just irritated you like constantly, like Teryn.
You
hello,
did. You did.
Relentless.
Yeah.
She was relentless. She was relentless. But now we know that's Clarissa, right? She's the relentless one.
At 10 o'clock at night sometimes, and Clarissa would be, I'd be like, this is before I came into the business with Clarissa, and I'd be like, Clarissa, who are you on the phone to now? Oh, please don't tell me you're pestering Teryn again. Mike, you don't understand. You don't understand. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop until I get a response.
But like that's the Leo in me. I'm a Leo. Like we you know,
Clarissa,
if I want something, I'm gonna focus my mind.
Yeah.
But I think for Clarissa, she you know, you were somebody that she admired, you know, in the industry, and she looked up to you so much.
Yeah.
And you know, I knew nothing about the industry at the time, but I knew who Teryn was, you know, because Clarissa was just like this woman. Her knowledge is just
it's like encyclopedia.
untouchable. Yeah. And so,
You're making me blush. My goodness gracious.
well, you did it to me at the start, so I'm doing it to you now.
Okay, we're even, Michael. We're even.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get into all that, and I do want to talk about you working as a husband and wife, you know, closely together, because you know Kat and I do as well. So we'll talk about that. So let's kind of start. Let's like take it back a little bit, and let's talk about the very beginning. How did you get into permanent makeup, Clarissa? Like, what was it about it that drew you to it, and how'd you get into it? What was your very beginnings?
Very beginnings. Well, previously, just going to rewind a little bit. So previously, just before that, so I'm now 32 this year, so 7 years in. So previously, before I was doing PMU, I was already in the beauty industry. And I was a spa therapist. I worked in an iconic hotel actually in London, the Dorchester, in the spa there. And that was a very intense, I'd say high performance job where everything had to be so perfect because we were working with like VVIPs, and the cost of the procedures was so expensive, and we had to have really advanced training for 6 months before we could even paint a nail. And we're talking like, you know, $200, £200, you know, for a manicure. So after about 5 years, I felt like I wanted more of a challenge. And it only happened to be, and I think a lot of people tend to say this as well, like I actually got PMU done myself.
Yeah.
And I absolutely loved the way that I felt when I left. I just felt so confident. I felt like, where am I going with these brows today? Like, I just wanted to show everyone. And I just loved how she could just transform something from, I didn't really have any good brows, to something that looked beautiful and enhanced. And I loved the way I felt. And I was like, you know what, I really, because I love, you know, I love working with the public and I love making people feel good. I thought, you know, this is a little bit more specialized than what I'm already doing with makeup and beauty. So I, took the jump, and then I went to go and learn permanent makeup in 2015.
2015.
2015,
Okay.
yeah. And then I never looked back. But at the time, I didn't specialize. I just learned eyeliner, hair strokes, and I think it was lip blush, and it was so like basic, you know, with the 4 flat hair strokes.
Yeah.
And that's when I first started in 2015.
So in 2015, you learned basic eyebrow, eyeliner, lip blush. So
Exactly.
when did you decide to focus, or what was it?
The ombre.
The ombre. Because now, do you do eyeliner and lip blush?
Nope. So
You drop those two, and you only do.
I completely dropped it. I wanted just to be a specialist in just one thing. I felt like for me, wanted to really, I suppose, really be the best that I could be. I wanted just to do the brows.
And can I say that you are like fucking awesome? You do. Yeah, you do.
Okay.
You do the most beautiful ombre brow and transition. And I want to tell you, me and Kat and Michele have talked about this several times. Remember when you came here to do a class and you needed a little, you know, you needed an assistant, and Michele assisted you?
Yes.
Michele learned so much from you. You can be so proud. When you see Michonne's ombre, she's one of the best.
I do.
And she's one of the best in the United States right now. That transition and what she does. And that's, that has a lot to do with you, Clarissa. She watched you intently. You're a great teacher, great trainer, great technique. And she got really serious. It was, you know, Michelle says, well, it's 2-part. First of all, you were testing loaded, and you want to make sure it was really strong with the single needle. So you like forced the single needle on me. You're like, you're going to do it. You're going to use single needle. And then she got to assist you in one of your classes here.
And she was amazing. She's an amazing, incredible
She's
artist.
amazing. So when you see like yes, but as a
I said to her, she was like, okay, quickly, like tell me the technique. And I was like, okay. So I gave her a little rundown, and then I literally double took.
I think you came back to the hotel and you said, Mike, I need a Michelle. I need to take a Michelle.
She was incredible.
Yeah.
She's got an actual for it. But I have seen her work since I actually left as well. I have seen her do absolutely insane ombres, like her gradients, her fade, the transitions of light and dark. Yeah, I'm so proud of her.
She took like what you taught her and just practice and practice and practice and practice, and that's what it takes. You know, that's what it takes for every artist, no matter what skill level you're at. Once you learn a new technique or a new needle, or you have an artist that because even me, I have artists that I admire, you know, and I follow them. It's like, man, I want to do work like that one day, or I want to learn that. It takes practice and consistency to get that good, right? But you got good rather fast, it seems. If you started in 2015, you know. So when did your ombre brows reach the level that they're at? Not that you're always getting better and better and better, but
well, the thing is, you do get better and better. I mean, every year I just wish every year that I get better, and that's just through experience and practice and time. And I still practice myself now. I think a lot of people don't realize that doesn't matter how good you are, you can always be better.
Right.
That's the one thing. But I'll answer that question for you of when did I think it all started. So in 2016, after about a year of just doing hair strokes, I had a friend of mine and she was like, can you just do like, you know, the ombre, like really light the front? And I was like, oh God, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'll try, but I mean, I knew that I learned how to lip line, doing eyeliner, and maybe just a bit of coloring in, like doing lips. So I was like, okay, maybe I can try and put these techniques together and see what I get. So that was so a year, I would say literally a year after I started doing the ombre. So I did her and I absolutely loved it. I mean, when I look back at it, I think, oh my God. Like,
she was your first ombre, wasn't she?
She was my first, yeah. But the thing is,
how long did your first ombre take? Because you were using the single needle.
I was using the single needle.
So what, was it about 8 hours, Clarissa? Come on now.
Like 6 or 7 hours. Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
6 or 7 hours, it's not an exaggeration.
No, it wasn't an exaggeration.
So
no.
Michael had to cook dinner for himself that night. He was on his own that night.
That's the standard every night, yeah.
It was a Milford one, wasn't it?
It was.
But yeah, and I was like, yeah, this is amazing. Now remember, there was no such thing at the time. I think technical words like, I did not know whip shading, pendulum. I didn't learn that. I didn't learn pointillism, and I did not know the word pixels, and I didn't even know the diameter of the needle I was using. So
you knew nothing. You knew nothing. You were just a raw artist. Yeah. Okay.
I winged it. I just thought they looked all right. They looked good. They'll do. And I was that night I came home and I was like, oh, I really like those brows. Let me call it something. So I looked at my eyeshadow palette and it said blush in there. So I was like, oh, maybe ombre blush brow. And then literally like the next day I posted it. And hardly anyone back then in 2016, really in the UK, I can speak for like where I was, there was no competition at all. And it just like, just.
Everybody was hair strokes at the time.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, it just exploded.
And before hair strokes, it was nothing but more of a solid brow. More of a solid brow. And then the whole industry changed and the whole industry got onto hair strokes. And it was like almost like if you were still doing a powder brow, you were dated. Yeah, you weren't relevant anymore. It was just hair stroke. And then it all came, to the ombre. And I think we're still in that ombre trend, but
it's transitioning. It's
transitioning, but at least now I see our industry. Do you see it now? Now it's not just one technique, now that overpowers the other. Now I do see hair strokes, powder brow, ombre, combo brows. Yeah, so now it's like, there's brows within brows, right? All kinds of different styles that we're doing now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what's so good about it. And, going back to me doing the brows, it was one of those things where each year
the industry just changes and changes.
It was changing, but I still stuck to the same. If you look at my technique, it's exactly the same technique.
It's just evolved.
It's just slightly evolved. And year by year, I learn about everything to do with, that's whip shading.
Yeah, Clarissa would spend hours, at night on YouTube and, looking at body tattoo artists. And I'm talking hours and hours a week.
And I feel like that's how sometimes a lot of people sometimes can't learn a technique on their own. They need, they want
hands-on.
But back then, I mean, if I was starting the industry now, I would go to somebody to learn ombre, right? But back then there was no one to go to for ombre.
Right.
Really.
That was that's the way it was for many, many things in my career. There was I mean, I started, there was no Facebook. Imagine. Those are really neat. Those are
Instagram.
There was like when I started the wild world, World Wide Web. That's what we called it, the World Wide Web. Yeah, I mean, I think we had 2 websites in the whole world in permanent makeup. I mean, that's when I started. It's like Facebook. You couldn't even begin to imagine a Facebook back then when I started. Yeah, and I think the artist today has a lot more available. I think it's two-sided, right? I think back then, no, I didn't have anything really available to me. But the PMU industry and the what was expected and all the different stuff, it was very limited. So I didn't have to hit this really super high standard and do all these styles, right? But nowadays, yes, there's a lot more available. YouTube, online training, hands-on. I mean, our industry is full of talented artists.
So good.
But there's a lot more for the PMU artists to learn. The standards of the skill and artistry are way higher. So I don't know if it's necessarily any easier. It's just the challenges have changed.
I mean, the example is in 2016 when I first did my ombre, if you looked at it then, you wouldn't be able to rip it apart. Well, you would, but I mean, you wouldn't really have a lot to compare it to now.
Right.
If you looked at that outline, oh my God, it was like so thick and like just like quite wobbly, and like the density was, you know, like it was really dense. I didn't really understand much about saturation, and then it was going like really, really light, and then like the pixels were quite, you know, there wasn't, you know, it was all there, but if you
had it come together, like it has now.
If you compare it now, you can definitely see the standards. You know,
Right.
there's a beautiful crisp outline to just doing an outline now.
Right. And I think when the ombre first got really popular too, the ombre was really deep. Like it started way back here, and we would get a lot of people in the studio. You know, I mean, a good inch, nothing. You know, they'd have half a brow. So that's how, So that's evolved and gotten better. I think people have realized you do have to saturate. Saturation is a word I've been, you know, using in my lectures for many, many years. And it's a word now that finally is very relevant in the PMU industry. What are your thoughts on saturation, Clarissa? Because right now, and for a while now, there's been a trend that you know, the new PMU artist is being taught to go not very deep, to tattoo very, very shallow, lightly saturate. And they're doing that, but we get a ton of messages, you know, my DMs, emails, phone calls, it's all falling out. It's only lasting a few months. And we're telling them it all goes back to proper depth and saturation. But they're being taught light-handed, shallow, light saturation, you know, barely putting anything in there because they don't want to see blood. They don't want to cause trauma, you know. And my whole, maybe I'm a little old school, and I'm interested to hear your perspective, but I feel, you know, you tattoo anything, face, eyeliners, I don't care. There's going to be trauma. There's going to be blood for some people. There's going to be redness, swelling for some people, not all. For me, it's about the client wants it to last. They want long lasting, not too long, because if it lasts too long, then that gives time for the pigment to start turning gray or turning, you know, weird colors, which it will if things sit for years and years and years in the skin. But I think 2 or 3 years is a reasonable amount of time for someone.
Definitely. I think I'm so glad you asked me this question, because I feel like a lot of the students that I teach I'm actually helping them to get really good retention, and they're completely doing what you said, and which is not saturating enough.
Right.
And I think the reason being, and I think I know why, is because if you go on Instagram, everything is supposed to be so aesthetically pleasing.
Right.
And
the Instabrow. Is that what we call it? The Instabrow. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm talking about, they're worried, and this is the main thing that comes up over and over again in my masterclasses, but I'm so worried that people might not have it done because it looks too dark, or, you know, or it doesn't look, or you can't see like the pixels as well. And I'm like, okay, first of all, let's dissect these two topics here. Pixels, let's talk about this. Pixels, yes, they look great when this is what we want to form, but pixels realistically are not going to really be there when they come back for their touch-up.
Thank you, Clarissa. I'm so glad that
what is this all about?
An artist like you, who's so fucking talented, is being so honest and real about
what
this.
Is it all
this is Clarissa's favourite topic.
It's my favorite topic too.
What is it all about?
I just think the whole industry is being bamboozled. You know, all these new technicians are being bamboozled about pixels.
The client doesn't even fucking know what a pixel is. All they want to know is when they get their brows done, they want to leave. You're creating little fine details.
They're creating it for likes on Instagram and trying to create these Instagram bows.
It's to do with, at the moment, it's all to do with the ASMR, look at the pixels, look at the pixels getting made. Okay, the pore is more than likely, actually it is, bigger, most probably than that tiny, minuscule dot, right? So, and those dots, yes, they're going to create a little bit of, they're going to help create some spacing in between to maybe not oversaturate. But these dots that people are spending so long on, like you see some of these, you see a lot of like, I call it sombre brows, where it's like dark on the base and then really light on the top, really pixelated. When I see them healed, I literally, I show them to you, don't I? And I said, if my client paid me, you know, £550 and they paid for my brows, if they had this as healed work, they would say, can I have a refund? Because there is nothing there.
Exactly.
You're looking at 20%, 30% retention.
Yeah.
And because what they're doing is they're saturating, I would say they're layering maybe 2 passes. I'd say 1 or 2 passes most probably max they're doing. And they're doing it so light, they're most probably just hitting, I mean, God knows, even if they're hitting the upper layer of the dermis, they're most probably still so superficial. And they're literally just spraying, you know, like spray, don't even touch, you know?
Yeah.
So, and then the pictures straight away look, they look amazing. Yeah, of course they don't look like they've been tattooed because you haven't even touched them. Do you know what I'm trying to say? You haven't even saturated them. So of course they're going to look beautiful, but they're going to look beautiful instantly. But remember, you're not taking into consideration that you're going to lose pigment. So then you're going to lose the pigment, and these dots aren't even going to be there anyway because everything wears out and looks smooth.
Exactly. Yeah. The dots don't even heal in the skin.
I actually prefer a buttery gradient, I have to say, brow, and that's why I use a very fine diameter, because I don't like dotty brows and my clients don't like dotty brows. But I think the pixel thing is out of control really badly, because I do think that it just doesn't make a lot of sense, because I would love to see healed results.
Well, they don't ever show them. They don't ever show them. I want to know
where they are.
Yeah, you know where they are? They're coming into places like the Girlz Inc. studio and going, you know, I paid like $700 for all these dots, but you know, I've done them twice now, and there's no dots. There's no pixels, and I'm like, because there's not going to be. And then so I think they're going to end up losing clients. They're going to end up with clients that are not satisfied. They're going to end up with clients that got promised something that cannot be delivered, and they're going to start losing clients.
Yeah. Look, when I'm teaching whip shading, obviously I'm going to give them, I don't want to start seeing lines everywhere. And at the end of the day, and I don't want to start seeing tractor marks. I said to you, it looks like tractor marks. Doesn't it? Like, you know, a tractor.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Dots as well.
Yeah.
Not even that either. I said, I think it's to have a nice balance. Like, obviously you want to focus on, people have put in so much focus on getting those pixels, which yes, that's fine. You want to start seeing that as you're whipping in. When you start seeing pixels being sprayed, it means that your whipping action is correct and your movement is good.
Right.
But at the same time, I think some people feel like they're not doing it right because they're not getting the same spray as somebody else. And I'm like, it doesn't mean that you're not whip shading right. Some people in the skin, it doesn't show up as well as somebody else. Yeah. So I might get a client that has never had any pigment under their skin, and they've got like smooth like butter. Now, I'm going to get most probably a beautiful spray of pixels, right?
Yes.
I'm going to grab my camera and I'm going to take a picture and be like, look at my pixels. But if I talk about that, that's most probably about 20% of my whole day. The rest of the day, when you've got people coming in with old saturated brows, you can't really see that spray as much because you've already got ink under there. Right. And they're focusing so much of getting these pixels, they're forgetting about the main thing is actually you need to saturate brows to at least, I would say around the tails, 80-90%, because you're going to lose roughly around 30% at least. Yeah. So you need a high retention. You need a high saturation. Right. So in my masterclasses, I teach saturation, and some people look really baffled, and I'm like, so when some people do when a lot of girls do training, a lot of the artists will say, well, just do like 3 or 4 passes, then you're done. And when it looks dark enough, you're done. Yeah. And I'm like, no, you can't go by that. Yeah. Because every skin is different. So if I do 4 passes, for example, on one client, and I do 4 passes on the other, and yes, I mean, one's going to look different to the other. Yeah. So you have to teach saturation, and you have to teach about the density and what you're looking for.
I agree.
With an ombre, with an ombre, I teach an ombre saturation, like basically formation of an ombre. So we want to get usually around, going from like 10, 30, 50, 70, 90. Like I literally make like a gradient, and it's all done by how many times you layer, short whips and long whips. And obviously different types of speed as well in your machine and your action. So I'm very specific.
Yeah, and I work a lot like you, meaning with the end goal in mind. From saturated, darker, arch, very striking. I like that art, and then it gets lighter and then nothing, ends up very, very soft and powdery. And I achieve that very differently than you. I use big shader needles, like 7 and 8 shaders, and I dilute pigment. So I'll use full strength pigment for the tail into the arch, and I'll saturate that. And then I dilute my pigment for the bridge, and then super dilute. I mean, sometimes I'll have 10% pigment, 90% soft effects for the bulb. So it's the same concept as you, because I think that transitional brow from dark to light is a beautiful brow. I just go about it a completely different way, which is fascinating that you can use full strength pigment and layer, use whip shading movements and get that transition or gradient brow the way you do it. You can use big needles and dilute pigment and get it the way I do it. And there's other ways as well, other really fantastic techniques and ways to get that result. So, but that's the big thing, and I think and I'm really waiting. I'm really hoping the industry gets off these pixels.
I think they will
sooner than later. I think a lot of them are learning. It seems to me they have to be out in the industry a year and a half, and they start seeing their clients come back with no pigment, no pixels, no nothing, or it's falling out rather quickly, and then they start questioning what they were learning. Then they start questioning the whole pixel thing. They start questioning things.
You've been there as well yourself with clients, and you've again through trial and error. You've done things and they've come back, and then you realise, but it takes time. It is a process.
I've always gone back to my technique. Like I've tried to sometimes and keep up with the trend. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll do a bit more pixelated brows, and I'm like. And you know what? To make something look pixelated, Teryn, you create in those pixels, but I would say roughly around the 50% mark, that is where I'd have to stop to still see the spaces of saturation, to see the pixels, right?
Yeah.
So I would roughly say I've layered the skin, maybe, I say passes, but actually layers. Passes I use as like chapters, if that makes sense. And then inside those chapters, I have like pages, which is how many layers I go in,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because passes is just a chapter.
Right.
So inside, if I want to keep those pixels, I really want to see that spray of pixels, I can't really saturate more than about 50%. Now, if I'm going to saturate about 50%, that's making sure that there's enough spacing between my pixels, and if I keep layering, obviously I'm going to fill up more and more space.
More space, yep.
Exactly. So if I wanted to see those pixels, which you're seeing a lot on the Instagram at the moment, and I think a lot of clients actually ring me and say, you're not going to give me those dots, are you? And I'm like, no, don't worry.
We get the same thing here. A lot of clients don't want, that's what they call them, dots. No, I don't want those dots. I'm like, no.
But it's a massive trend. And the thing is, if I stopped at 50%, which is a lot of I'd say artists that come to me for help, then I would get very pixelated work. But then the clients who, remember, that's what they're paying for you to do them a good job. It's not about me.
Right.
They will come back and they will literally look like it's been in there for like a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, and you hit on something that I believe in deeply. It's about the client and client satisfaction, and we can all agree. I think everybody can agree that knows anything about PMU, that the less you have to re-tattoo an eyebrow, the healthier that skin. The longer we can go without having to redo our own work on a client, the healthier the skin. So when you've got work falling out in 6 months, and you've got these clients going, we've seen them in here. We've seen scarred brows.
They blame the pigment as well. They blame
the pigment. They blame everything except that they're overworking the skin, that they're having to re-tattoo it every 6 to 10 months. or once a year. Here in Girlz Inc. with our technique, we see our eyebrows about, I would say, at least 2 years. I would say 2 to 4 years is average.
Yeah.
And then this is what people will ask me at Clarissa. They'll say to me, well, then how do you make money on refreshes? I'm like, well, it's not my intention to make money on refreshes. I don't want to saturate less intentionally, so my client has to come back more often and I have to re-tattoo that more often so I can make more money. Our reputation that our brows last has traveled all over Vegas and beyond, and that's how we've built our massive clientele. Our work lasts. So we are not lacking income, we are not lacking clients because our work lasts. And I think that's a misconception. I think a lot of people think if their brows last a reasonable amount of time, they're gonna lose refresh money. And that really peeves me when I hear that, because then I think that's a very selfish statement. They're working a very particular way in order to see their client back sooner and make more money. And that's not what it's about. It's about the client. It's about the integrity of their skin. It's about our work lasting a reasonable amount of time and client satisfaction. So I'm really, really glad that I didn't even plan on talking pixels with you. It was not on my cue cards.
There you go. Well, I just wanted to quickly say on that is that, people might think, so why does she use, a single needle? And look, I haven't got a problem with making pixels, but that is not my end goal. My end goal is to build up the pixels, to then bring them as close as I can together, like especially around the tails. And you're not supposed to have pixels around the tails and the arches.
No, exactly.
With my brows, you don't really tend to see much texture around the arches to tails, but then you start to get like a buildup of, tiny pixels, mostly around like the middle to the fronts, just because I'm saturating less. Yeah. But the end goal is all about my saturation and to make sure that retains the most. And you can achieve that with a single needle or with like your big needle, whatever you prefer. But
Right. Yeah, I can get some pixels. I think people think I can't get pixels. I can get pixels just as well as the next artist, I did a lot of pixely work in my body tattoo work, but they just don't heal in the skin. They don't heal in the skin. They don't.
When I was really bummed. Like do you remember like about 6-7 months ago, I was like, I'm gonna, do a really like pixelated brow.
This is when there was practice pads all over the kitchen table.
Yeah, but not that one. I actually did it on a client, and it looked beautiful, right? She came back, and I thought, all that time I did it on a slow machine. I was, being really slow, making this pixels. It all looked, nice.
When you took the picture, it looked great, but then when she came back,
it looked really soft at the end. It looked really soft. That's what she wanted. It looked fluffy, what everybody wants, fluffy, soft, etc. Yeah. When she came back, I was like, okay, I'm just going to redo everything again. And like, it just didn't look anything like.
And you know what? And what we're talking about today, I think this podcast and this conversation is going to be so helpful to so many young artists, because you are the ombre queen. You are the fucking pixel queen. If anybody can do no, you are, and you know it. You know she is, Michael. You're the pixel queen.
Every day. And I tell her in the morning, I tell her at night, I tell her at night.
She is. Like, nobody can do you're one of the top pixelators. You do these amazing pixels, and you learned for yourself what actually happens to pixels. And you just discovered all this stuff. Yeah, and now you speak the truth. You're honest and transparent about pixels, trying to educate other people about pixels. It
looks lovely, but it doesn't last.
Yeah, and so I just really respect that from you, because I think a lot of artists that are doing pixels, they know what you know. They see their healed work, they know what you know, but they're not speaking transparently and openly about it, because either, they're selling classes, they're making money off these fresh pixelated brows, and they don't want, and they don't want to, I don't know, I think everybody that does pixels long enough comes to the conclusion that you did, but they're not speaking about it. Right.
I'm more here for, I prefer like a smooth, buttery
Yeah.
gradient.
Yeah.
That has always been
Something that's
me.
gonna
Yeah.
hold.
It's something that's
Yeah.
gonna hold, something that's gonna look beautiful in the skin. It looks really like buttery, and like sometimes what I can do, like, you know, and to get that beautiful gradient, you know, you can still, you know, get like with pixels, people think, oh, okay, if I get pixels, it means it's going to be really, really soft. But what you can do is you can just use a very small diameter, and if you use like a fast speed, you'll get like more of a like a buttery.
Oh,
the
yeah.
pixels will
Yeah.
be really like fine,
Yeah.
very fine. So
Yeah.
I'm really into like very fine pixels where you can't really see the dots, because I like them to be so close that it looks more like a buttery gradient. And you could do the same with like you doing that with mags or like whatever. But
Right.
yeah, people just need to know like
Right.
there's more to it than just a dot.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go on to, I wanted to talk about your pigments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to talk about blush to bold. So your company is Ombre Blush Brow, OBB. Everybody can find you.
OBB.
Yeah, everybody can find you on Instagram.
You've got that tattooed on, haven't you?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, OBB.
OBB,
Yeah.
right? Because I get tongue twisted. Like, try to say Ombre Blush
always say-
Brow like fast, like 3 times. You can't, right? It's like it's like a tongue twister.
Tongue twister.
Yeah, it's a tongue twister. So I was like, OBB, yeah, it could be a
OBB.
song, like, you know the song OPP, Other People's Problems?
Yeah,
It's like
that's
it.
OBB.
song.
Yeah, I love it. So that's your company.
Yeah.
And
then yeah.
that's your company. And you you developed your pigment, you developed a technique, the way you work, this layering, gradient technique to your ombre brow, and you developed a pigment line to really complement the way you work. So I think your pigment line, and this is why when I think it was Kat that made me sit down and read your emails and take a look at you, and then she did, and then I got super interested. And why I got really fascinated with you is because you were different. You wanted 2 pigments, same tone, but one lighter, one darker, to complement the way you work. And I had never worked on a line like that before. So I saw this as something really new, really innovative, really unique, and I was excited to jump on it. But I think the misconception about your blush to bold pigments that I would like to clear up is people think they have to work like you. They have to use both pigments. They have to layer. And if they don't work like you and layer and blend dark to light, they can't use your pigments. And that is so not true. Within your line, you can work the way I work. You can do hair strokes. You can do any technique. You can use the lighter, you can take the lighter color of the pear and use that all by itself. You can take the dark.
12 individual colors, or you can have them as pairs.
That's what I want people to really, really understand about your line, because I think when we first launched, maybe there was a misconception that they weren't 12 individual colors all on their own. They were 2 pairs that had to be used in pairs and had to be used according to the way you work, and that is not true. And so I think people are finally starting to discover that about your line.
Oh, definitely.
Oh my God, yeah, like literally.
We used to get emails, you know,
we've had like a
on
massive
regular
shift,
basis.
haven't we?
Big shift now.
We had a massive shift, yeah.
But that was definitely a topic that would come up a lot. You know, people would email in all the time. And
I think
say,
you don't know with a pigment line, do you? It's like with my staff, they always say to me, Clarissa, you know that, yeah, but we don't know
you
that.
have to, you have to get inside the artist's mind, and you know, you have to.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I think of it like, you know, there's some like items, like you go to the store and there's like, we have a groceries chain here called like Costco. And sometimes with some food items, oh, you do? Yeah, well, you know, like at the end of the aisle, sometimes there's a person there displaying and showing you how to use an item, right? It's
Is that what we need?
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
I, you know, it's like almost with your line, you needed, it's almost like you had to explain, but I do find that with every single line, even with Loaded, with Queen, you know, the Queen line, yes, that was developed for, you know, dark skin, black skin, and specifically African-American skin, for the uniqueness of their skin, but it can also be used on, other skin types, but it was, and so people kind of want to take a pigment line and lock it into a very specific corner when they are very versatile. So let me ask you this. How was it developing? I don't think people understand how difficult and how maddening it is, especially for someone like you, Clarissa, who's a lot like me, right? You're a manic thinker.
I am.
It's relentless.
Relentless. You're probably obsessive, got some OCD, right? All this stuff.
I have got OCD.
I know. You're a lot like me, and Michael, you're a lot like Kat. Kat always says, I'm the gardener. Michael's the gardener. You and Clarissa, you're the flowers. You're the wild flowers.
He has to take. He has to take my.
Water her. Look up.
He has to take the phone off me. He has to literally put me in a lock, like this bed, and go to sleep. And I'm like, I've got things to do. He's like, go to sleep.
No, but you know what? Now, 3 years, 3 years down the line, it has changed. But you go back to the start in the early days. There'd be days where I would go up to bed. And I'd come downstairs in the morning, and Clarissa would be, on the kitchen floor.
I've got pigment all over my face.
There'd be pigment all over the floor.
I'm testing.
Her phone would be on the side. There'd be Pantone books everywhere. It was just like crazy.
Yeah.
And so and that was Clarissa was relentless.
So how did that, as a married couple, did that affect your relationship at all? Because the dynamic of wife and wife, me and Kat been together 17 years. You guys have been married how long? Or together how long?
We've been together 17 years.
So, okay, I remember. About the same amount.
Married 5.
Right.
Yeah.
So you, Michael, always had your own career like Kat did.
Yes.
And then you come into her crazy wild world like Kat came into my crazy wild world.
You go to their world.
Right. And we've talked about this as couples. Like Kat and I had to set boundaries. We went through periods where we felt we lost our romance. We were no longer romantic because we were business partners, but we both recognized it. And then we started setting date nights. We stopped talking business at a certain time at night. We had to set boundaries and rules in order to maintain our marriage, our romantic relationship. Did you guys ever deal with that? Do you have to have boundaries, rules?
I think a lot of the start, you have to find it's hard, when you're doing anything that you're passionate about, to have a balance. People say work-life balance, but it's not like that. Especially when you believe in something so much. But because Clarissa believed in this, line so much, I always wanted to support, everything that she was doing. But what was hard is sometimes, I felt that Clarissa was maybe, almost destroying her health and sacrificing her health to do the things that she was doing. And so I'm very like you and Kat, I'm the regimented one. I'm the one that wants to go to bed at a certain time, and and so
let's go out for a meal, let's not I think in the end though, and to answer this question with Teryn, you in the end I calmed down. And then you were talking when you came on board.
And then it went the opposite way.
When he came on board with me, I said to him one night, I feel like all we ever do is talk about work. Like, can we not just talk about work tonight?
Because
and he's like, but you've just brought up about work. And I was like,
what it's like, and you'll know this is it's like a child. The business and everything within it becomes part of the marriage. It becomes it just becomes part of.
It becomes a part of you. Like who you are.
So we sat.
You have to learn how to then manage that monster.
And it can be difficult. It can be difficult.
It can be difficult.
What we do now.
It's so rewarding, when it goes right, and you sit back and you would not change anything, because all of those experiences, what shapes you as a person, and but I think the thing is, it just takes time, and you do find a balance. You do. Don't you?
Yeah, and I think we now do what Teryn said. Like, so we'll say, okay, so the weekend, let's not work this weekend. Let's not talk about work. When we go out, let's not talk about work. So when we'll go out, we just will not.
But then it is hard because you've got the online store as well.
Well, especially once you get a cocktail in you, then you want to start talking about work. I forget the rule Kat just said. I'll get a little, cocktail in me, and I want to talk about something.
So this is what Clarissa will do. She'll say, right, Mike, no, seriously, tonight I don't want to know about, honestly, please don't talk to me about what, and we'll go out and I'll be really good. I won't say anything, and I won't mention anything, and then she'll bring it up.
Yeah.
And then I'll start talking, and then what happens is if she starts the conversation, I get really excited and I start going off on
that's exactly what happens.
She gets angry.
Yeah.
And she said,
We weren't talking about work.
Yeah,
then
either
join
Kat
in.
will join in and then we're
Yeah.
both in it, or she'll say, Teryn, you promised no work today. And my excuse will be, but it's a positive thing. It's not a stressful thing, but this is a happy thing. This is a positive thing. So it's okay. And she's like, no, it's not okay. But Kat has done the flip-flop too. Lately, I would say the last month, we'll put on like a Netflix or, Married at First Sight, one of our shows, and I'll look over and she's on her phone at fucking 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, what are you doing? And here's Kat. I'm answering Instagram. I'm answering your DMs. I'm trying to close a sale, because we get messages on the store. And I'm like, I'm gonna shut the fucking TV off. I'm gonna shut the TV off, and if I shut the TV off, I'm gonna get upset. So she has to put down her phone. So I think nowadays, you're right, it's both of us. But what I find is when I'm amped and in work and can't relax and can't get out of it, Kat's in a better place and she can pull me out of it gently.
True.
When she's in it, can't get out of it, amped, I'm in a better place. So thank God we're not,
Oh my God, that's literally
Yeah,
like
it's
me
the
and
same.
you.
we balance
So, like,
each other.
Yeah. I'll come home and I'll be like, oh my God, like I want to do this, I want to do that. And he's like, all right, well, I'll do the dinner. Like you just do what you got to do. And then
we pick up.
And then we pick up.
7, sometimes even 1 o'clock in the morning. We'll just wake up and we'll start talking about
But
whatever. it is that
Teryn,
we
you're
need to
right.
talk
We'll
about.
watch a film, and then like I'll look over, and like we would have got like a couple of like, if Mike gets, we get really excited when we get like our, we get sales of pigments or whatever, and
or an inquiry.
or inquiries, and he's like, oh my God, and then we'll pause the film. And then we'll talk about like what just happened or what the sale was or closing a sale. We haven't even watched the film. It's been 2 hours later.
Yeah. Well, I think
Yeah.
it's true though, and that excitement never stops. I think we've had our online store about 12 years, 11 years, and we get excited for sales. We still get excited for this. Everything is still really exciting and fun and joyful, although you have the stress, the worried moments, the struggle.
It's not always like 100%, is it? Like there is times where I've come home, I'm stressed, like where I've been upset because I'm just overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed by too many things.
It can. I mean, you've got so much going on. We always say that you can split the business up into 3. You've got the online training, the training, your academy.
Yeah.
There's the everyday procedures. And then there's the
products
store.
and the
And then you've got
store.
everything else, the pigment line and everything else.
And sometimes you just need to like reset, and you
You have
can
to
just
reset.
like overwhelmed. But going back to the very first question about Blush to Bold, I think it was most people like you as well. I just wanted to get everything so right, and I was so privileged to obviously work with you, and you obviously helping me to get in with
LI Pigments as
Pigments.
well,
And I just want to say LI Pigments, they are
They're incredible.
amazing, like the chemists, like they literally listen to everything.
They are.
They're just good people.
And I don't
They're
think
just
people
good
understand,
people,
like, it's not like a white labeled formula, this is
No,
a formula.
no.
I've actually worked with them, like I've actually weighed the colors, the tones, the shades.
Oh, revisions backwards and forwards,
like the carriers in
Yeah.
there.
Well, Darlene won't white label anything like Aqua, Velvet, Load, and all those. Those are exclusive under the LI Brother umbrella, and she won't release those formulas or colors to any private label, anybody. Like when you came to me, you had to have your own complete, like you had to develop your own formula, your own colors, your own everything. We'll guide you so you don't make a mistake, because of course LI chemists, they know how to mix and blend colors. They know what colors might not work well together, this and that. So they'll guide you. But no, that's really all we're there for, is to kind of guide you, maybe give you some inspiration, some ideas that you had never thought of, things like that. But it's really up to you to develop, the line, and it's LI's responsibility to make sure that they're developing the best, the highest performance line possible for you. So sometimes we do have to like guide you and say, no, that's really not going to work well. Consider this. Well, we send you sample after sample after sample. Some of the samples you like, some of the samples you like, then we have to make adjustments to that sample. You can get 7 samples of one color before you feel that color's correct.
sometimes.
Yeah, I did like 11 samples, one of the darker
Yeah,
colors.
and I don't think people realize that,
No.
and I don't know if anybody else really goes through that, the way our artists go through that with LI, because LI doesn't repurpose anything. These are all brand new developments, brand new pigments.
And I think, yeah. And that's why, just quickly going on the subject with blush to bold and saturation, just so that just so it closes that topic together. But the reason why blush to bold was formed and made is because if you think about to create something to make something look dark, you need to create high density, like high amount of saturation. Right. So where the bold comes into your blush to bold is that you can most probably saturate just a little bit less if you want, and then switch to a darker shade. Right. And that will give you like that pop, that intensity, yes, without oversaturating the same color. Right. So you can go down a shade and it will make it like completely pop. So, and using blush to bold with hair strokes, combination brow, you can do hair strokes with like the bold and then blush in the background. You can use bold on its own, blush on its own. Yes. There's just so you can use it for microblading. Yeah. It's such a versatile line. And I think this is one of the key challenges, I think, again, coming into blush to bold and learning what the audience, it
was for the artist. That's
but then also understand the struggle of what the audience maybe didn't understand as well. Right. Like, because I understood it and I thought a lot of people would understand, but I think now we're going into like reformulating for the new week.
And that's what I wanted to touch on is, once you got a really successful line, and let me remind you, you had a lot of challenge. You had to launch during COVID.
Yeah, we did.
You test, keep testing during COVID, launch during COVID. And the UK was shut down a whole lot longer than many, the US and many other places in the world. So I think that placed, a very unique challenge on the two of you. And I think, I think when new products, new pigments launched during that time, I don't think they got the full attention as they deserved, or maybe they would have gotten if there was no COVID. So, I was worried for you, on how you would handle that. But you handled it eloquently, and I know you still believe in this line. And I think it's just been a nice, slow, consistent gaining of artists, finding this line, falling in love with it, and it becoming their line of choice. So that's what I'm seeing.
That's what we're seeing as well.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I constantly do market research without like naming or anything, but like anyways, I constantly do market research, and I constantly will try a lot of others, just because I want to see the competition.
Well, and you want to make sure. Well, I did the same thing developing Loaded. I ordered a bunch of pigments.
And I know what I want, how I want it to heal. Right. And I think a lot of people, I mean, your Loader line is absolutely incredible. And I think because the light fastness most probably in there as well is great, because a lot of people think with organic line that they will heal very saturated because of maybe more maybe the carbon that's in there, but I think with LI pigments, like their light fastness and the way that it's just so well balanced that with your organic line, I find that it heals very true to color, but it still stays saturated. Whereas with other organic lines that I have tried, they are just very, very dull and
dense,
gray.
And they're turning gray.
I don't know, like they grab, because there's a certain carrier, I think in other lines, that it's like a sticky. I was speaking to actually one of the chemists, Blanca, and she was saying in other lines they have sometimes this other carrier that makes it like sticky. I don't know, it's like imagine if you add like an egg, to the formula, and then so some people might like this sometimes another line because they say, it sticks to the skin quite well. Right. But then what they don't realize is that when it heals, you can see every single thing, like literally we put an outline, it's in there, like where you do a dot, it's in there, and you don't want a line too much like that as well.
No, not at all. And LI's never really followed the trends. They've been making pigments specifically for the face for 32 years. Darlene, Blanca, Mattia, all the ladies, they're brilliant. They're brilliant. And there's a lot of things they just won't do. Even to kind of compete with other, they just won't do it because they don't believe in it. And with Loaded, we did something very, very, very unique by using, being very particular about our light fast and very particular about combining multiple yellows with that do have, some people are under the impression that, yellows have, super low light fastness. They tend to have a lower light fastness than, some, blacks and some of the other colors. But there are yellows out there that are heavier in weight. That might not make sense to somebody, but it makes perfect sense to a chemist, and that are higher in light fast. And when you take green-based, neutral-based, orange-based, you take all these yellows with heavy weights and different light fasts, you can find them in the mid to higher light fast, and you fuse them together in the base. That brings balanced aging to an organic line that contains carbon. And we knew when we developed Loaded, we were going to have to combat the carbon. We knew that going in. Carbon can outlast anything. As the power, it does. And we knew that. We all knew that. We had to combat that. But that's why Loaded, Loaded was 3 years developing it, but 5 years before we started developing Loaded, LI Pigments was doing R&D and testing and this and that, figuring out if carbon could be balanced out by doing particular things. And if they were successful in figuring that out and it could be done, then they would develop an organic line. Right. Yeah. And if it could not be done, they were not going to do an organic line. And lo and behold, it did take them 5 years. It was very frustrating. I was always on their ass. I drove them nuts. And then, but it all worked out. We were able to develop Loaded. That took another 3 years before LI felt and I felt comfortable. And then here we are. So,
But I've learned so much on.
Where are we on time?
Yeah.
An hour.
Okay, so we got an hour. So we're at an hour. We do have to wrap this up. I could talk to you for another hour.
We should do like a part 2, one day.
Yeah, no, I'm going to have you back. Yeah.
No, we'll do the Vegas one where we go to Vegas.
Yeah, because I wanted to talk to. I am going to
go out for dinner after.
Yeah.
As well.
No, I am. I'm going to schedule you back because I wanted to talk about reformulating for the E-New. Want to talk about that. I want to talk about filtering pictures. I wanted to talk about Instagram. I wanted to talk about a lot of different things. So we will reschedule and have you back. But I want to end with something kind of fun, okay? Something kind of fun.
Okay.
So you can't think about this, okay? There's no thinking. This is, so Clarissa, you go first, Michael, you go second, and these answers have to be very quick. So this is what I call get to know Clarissa and Michael's section, okay? I should have you answer for each other and see how well you know each other. That's what I should do.
We did
this before we got married.
Yeah.
But now I feel under pressure.
Now you feel a little pressure, Michael? You're blushing again. You're blushing again.
Yeah, I am, yeah.
Okay, Clarissa, morning or night person?
Night.
Michael?
A morning.
I knew that. Clarissa, when it comes to movies, romance or thriller?
Thriller.
I knew that. Michael? Thriller, okay. Clarissa, who is your celebrity girl crush?
Ariana Grande.
Oh yeah, she's cute.
I love her. She's so cute.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you, will you get in trouble if you answer this question, Michael?
I know who it is already.
You know who it is?
I've got to be careful what I say because when the cameras stop, I know.
You better pick. I know. You better be careful. Okay.
Can I answer it?
You know.
No.
1, 2, 3. Angelina Jolie.
Angela Jolie. Yeah.
Man crush, Bradley Cooper.
Wait, she didn't ask you that.
No, but I asked Kat yesterday. Can I ask Michael who his man crushes? That would be super fun.
Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper. I love it. I fucking love it. How about him and Lady Gaga together? That was so hot.
As a person, he's such a great guy.
I love Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
I would go out with him.
You'd go out with him? Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that.
I don't know if I'd go out with him, but my boy crush. Well, us lesbians, we do this thing. Like if you
Yeah.
had to, or you'll die.
You had to.
You had
Yeah,
to,
okay.
or you die, because that's the only way, you know, a lot of lesbians are going to, if we're faced with death, you know. And so mine is the Biebs, Justin Bieber.
Wow.
Oh,
Okay.
Justin Bieber.
Justin Bieber.
Cats. And
Cats changes. It used to be Tommy Lee of Motley Crue, but now he's a little older. She's not really digging him so much.
No,
So,
okay,
you know, yeah, hers has changed. I don't know who her current one is. She's got
Need
a
to find
couple.
it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to find that out. But she likes Angela Jolie. She thinks Angela Jolie is very hot, and Charlize Theron, very hot. Okay, okay, Clarissa. I think I know all of Clarissa's answers. Saver or spender?
Spender.
Michael?
Saver.
We got to have one saver in the family, right? Kat's the spender, I'm the no, she's good at both. She's good at both. Okay.
I'm teaching Clarissa. She's learning.
Although I am now most probably going into being a saviour, but just because I want to spend it on more on the business.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
it is, like.
Well, you get to a certain age and saving starts to become more important, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
definitely, yeah.
I got two more questions. I think I know this one for both of you. Would you rather order in or dine out?
Dine out.
I
Dine
knew
out.
that because we dined. We've dined with you. I know that.
Really?
You guys are foodies, right? I know that. Okay, so I'm going to ask each one of you. You might have to think about this one a little bit, but this is the last question. Who do you look up to the most, and what qualities do you love most about them?
You go first.
No, you first. Come on.
Who do I look up to the most and what qualities? Oh, God.
I mean, I'm going to say Clarissa.
Yeah,
Clarissa's my biggest inspiration. Definitely.
that's beautiful. You better say Michael, Clarissa, or you're going to get hate mail.
I gave her some time to think. Hang on, is she not going to say? Come on.
I'm gonna say,
No.
I'm gonna say you.
Yeah.
Because you're very you're very courageous. You're very strong. You're mentally very positive.
This is the first. This is
and
the
you're
first
my-
I'm hearing.
you're
This is the
my
first you're hearing this?
salt-
Yeah.
You're my,
Yeah.
you're my salt to my pepper.
Okay.
Yeah, I love
Right.
that. I love that. You know, the minute me and Kat met you in person, well, we talked a lot before we met, but you get a vibe for people. And both Kat and I, Kat wanted to be here today, but she had an obligation. But next time I'll have her here. But you two, you're just beautiful people. You are. And no, and I mean it with all my heart. I could get a little emotional talking about it. And I've missed you guys the last 2.5 years. We even don't talk as much, because of COVID and
Yeah.
But we're going to make up for it.
We're gonna make
we
up
are.
for it.
I know that. And I love you two. I love you two together.
Oh, I
and
love you guys as well so much.
you're
Same.
talented.
And you know what? I feel like, Teryn, it doesn't matter. You're a friend where even if you didn't speak for like 6 months, it's like I only spoke to you yesterday.
You
Do
just
know what
pick
I'm
up
trying to say?
where you left
Pick up
off.
anytime.
Yeah.
But we're gonna definitely yeah.
We're going to make it happen.
Well, we want you back in Vegas. We want to have you do a class here. Your classes always sell out here. So we're excited for, when all that picks up again and gets back to kind of normal in the industry.
Definitely.
All right.
Definitely.
So I know it's late there. I'm going to let you go. So I want to thank you guys.
No. I think no, because we're going to dine out now tonight.
You're gonna go
Because
dine out.
No, we're going to dine out. There's a
Yeah,
new
right?
Japanese restaurant.
Because
There's
this
a new
was fun.
Japanese
How can
restaurant.
you just stay in and go curl on the couch? This was too fun. You got to go. Yeah, you know what you're going to do? You're going to go out to dinner, you're going to have cocktails, and you're going to talk about this, which is really
This
work.
is exactly what we're going to go
I know
and
it
do
is.
downtown.
We have to go.
And we want you to do the same tonight as well.
So thank you guys for taking the time out to talk to me. It was fascinating. I think our listeners are going to love this topic, and I'm going to have you two back.
Yes.
Sounds
And
been
I will
lovely.
be in touch and definitely.
And
need
hello,
to-
hi to Kat as well.
Yeah.
Likewise, we miss you both, and we can't wait to, be out there and see you guys as well.
Yeah.
All right.
We love you lots.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Love you.
Mwah.
You got it.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. Thank you. That was Clarissa and her husband, Michael. And what a great conversation. Great people. Check out her Instagram at Ombre Blush Brow if you haven't yet. And a little reminder, if you're built for success, then you are built for the struggle. In order to be built for success, you must be built for the struggle. Getting through that struggle is worth it. There's triumph at the end. So don't stop and don't get disappointed. Just dig deep and get through that struggle, because there's success at the end of struggle. Believe me. So thank you for joining me. We will see you next time.